Hello and welcome to my drumming part 4. In this video we're going to look at a song that is a big step up from the first 3. So this is a song called Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and there's a lot of different beats in this. So in the very first video that we looked at that was run by Snow Patrol, there was 2 beats. The next one was Dakota by the Stereophonics. There was 4 different patterns of drums in there. The last one in part 3 was Rocks by Primal Scream, which had predominantly 1 beat going all the way through and 3 drum fills in. This song is a lot more complicated. There's a lot of different patterns, there's a lot of different fills in it, and one thing that we haven't looked at yet so far is using your left leg for the hi-hat. Okay, so we'll look at the drum pattern that's starting this song. It's the main pattern that's throughout a lot of the verses, and it's a lot more complicated than things we've looked at so far because, as I say, it uses the hi-hat and it uses snare drum beats that are happening not at the same time as the hi-hat. So to count this through, we're still going to use the 8 count that we've talked about before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the snare drum comes in on beats 3. It comes in between beats 4 and 5. So it's like 4 and 5. It comes in between 5 and 6, and it comes in on 7 as well. And then after beat 8 there's a double tap. So it's a lot different, and this is one of those things that you're going to have to count through and practice really slowly. So just on its own, really slowed down, it sounds like this. Now the bass drum comes in on beats 1 and 6. So with all the others, it's like this. And then finally the hi-hat comes in on the first beat. So it's difficult to play it because the hi-hat is opening just after the double tap at the end of the 8th beat. So normally it's played after 1 round through. Now sometimes on this kit where it's electronic, the hi-hat beat or the hi-hat open and close isn't picked up because of the double beat on the snare drum, so sometimes it doesn't play 100% of the time listening to it, but this is roughly how it should sound. Okay, so that's the main pattern played through. That's pattern 1. Now, as you know the score by now, the pattern plays through a number of times. So that one plays through 8 times. Then it goes into pattern number 2, which is a simple 4 count with the bass drum on the 1 and the snare drum on the 3. That is played through 4 times, and on the 4th the hi-hat opens with the snare drum. So the beat, the standard beat, goes like this. opening on the fourth. So that then plays through, the song goes back into pattern 1 where it's played through a number of times before coming in and round again to the rest of the instructions, which will now show on screen. So the third pattern in this song is more of a link. It's not really a pattern because it's not played a number of times, but after the other patterns have played through, as the song goes from the verse into the chorus, this beat is played. And the bass drum comes in on the 1, and just before the third beat, there's another snare drum beat. And on the 4, the floor tom is played. So it sounds like this. Okay, so it's very quickly done in the song. It's only played through once before the rhythm changes to something else. But if we count it through slowly, so 1, 2. Now there's also pattern 4 on this, is another linking part of the song where I've used an 8 count in this, but there's not 8 counts on the hi-hat. So the normal 1 is played on the bass drum, 3 is played on the snare drum, 5 is played on the bass drum. Then instead of a normal drum pattern carrying on like that, the 5th beat on the bass drum then just starts a small snare drum roll only. So it sounds like this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Pattern 5 is one that's played a few times throughout the song, and it's very similar to pattern 2, which we were playing, in as much as the bass drum comes in on the 1 with the snare drum on the 3, but occasionally the cymbal comes in on the first beat as well. So actually in the song, the cymbal is played on the first 2 times through, then it's not played for the next 2 times. So it sounds like this. So that is one of the patterns that appears a few times throughout the song, and there's cymbal crashes, so I just wanted to show the difference between a normal and a so quite different. Now pattern 6 comes in at the end of the chorus, and it's a point where everybody stops for a short break. So it's snare drum on the 3 and the 5, bass drum comes in on the 1, the 4, the 6, 7 and the 8, and the 6, 7 and 8 is played on the cymbals as well. Now that sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is, because to play through it's very similar to things that we've played before, but it sounds like this. So I'll play it through a couple of times round slowly. Now pattern 7 is very similar to pattern 1 that we've seen, but instead of being played on the hi-hat with the hi-hat opening on the first beat, it's played on the ride cymbal. So I'll play it through a few times so you can hear the difference between pattern 7 and pattern 1, because there's no opening hi-hat. But it sounds like this. Pattern 8 is played in the middle part of the song, and again we've played similar things before, but this is on the ride. There's not so many snare drum patterns on the and beats, so this is bass drum on the 1, snare drum on the 3, and then a double tap in between the 4 and the 1 again. So it sounds like this. Again, quite a difficult one to master because the snare drum hand is moving faster than the normal 4 count. Now pattern 9 is one of the beats that again ends a phrase in the song, so it's where it's the end of the drums playing at one part in the song. It's a 4 count beat, and the start, so say beat 5, ends with a cymbal crash and a bass drum. So bass drum comes on the 1, the 2, the 4 and the 5, and sounds like this. I'll play that through a couple of times. Again, fairly straightforward once you play it through a few times, just to get used to where you're moving your hands to. Now the final pattern, pattern 10, comes in, and it's one of those where you blink in the song and you missed it. It's very fast, it could be avoided playing if possible, but it adds an extra sort of swing and groove to the song that just makes it sound great. So it's one of those that it's very hard to count through, because effectively instead of a 4 count, instead of an 8 count, the amount of hi-hat notes in this, there's 12 of them, and there's a lot of different on the beats and off the beats. So as you've seen on the music, the bass drum comes in on the 1, the 2, the 4, along with the cymbal at the same time. It comes in on the 6, and it also comes in on the 10 and. So not on the 10, but the and after the 10. The snare drum comes in on the 3, the 7, the 8, the and after the 9, and on the 11. So it's very difficult to count through, so it's one of those that really the more you listen to it in the song, the more you'll pick up playing it. But it sounds like this. So I'll play it through a couple of times so you can hear how it goes. So that's it. There's 10 patterns involved in this song. Some of them happen so quickly in the song you might not pick them up first time, but they're all written out in the music for you to see. Have a go through, listen to the music, read through the music, and the drum part of this song is coming up next, so you can hear that play through in its entirety. Listen, play along. I hope you enjoy it. There is a brief instrumental 4-bar intro at the beginning that plays before the drums come in, so I'll let that play through, and then as it plays through, I'll join in with the drums. So here it is now for you. So that's it, all the way through. The difficulty with playing that song on this kit is every now and then, if beats are played too closely together, all the sounds don't make it out quite right at the same time. So there's a few hi-hats when they should be opening and shutting them in a weren't coming through. So if you listen closely, you can hear that as they're closing, but it's not quite making the sh noise. So it's not perfect, but I think that's as close as I'm going to get it, because we're a few takes in now. So hopefully you'll get how the song goes from that video, and hopefully you can play along to it and enjoy it. So thanks very much. See you in part 5.